Welcome back again to Spotlight, where we feature the University of Central Arkansas's College of Fine Arts and Communication. I'm Donna Lampkin-Stephens. We have a very special show today. The UCA journalism faculty lost one of our colleagues, Jerry Overton, on the first day of class this spring, and it's been a tough semester. But today we're here to celebrate Jerry's life. Jerry was the executive producer for Spotlight, and his classes have been the crew for the last year or so, and they've done a wonderful job. So today, Jerry, this one's for you.
Jerry Overton was both an educator and broadcaster with 44 years of experience in teaching, broadcast sports and news, sports marketing, sales management, and programming. On June 27, 1954, Jerry was born to Earl and Irma Overton in Fort Smith, Arkansas. He attended the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville for his bachelor's degree in broadcast journalism, graduating in 1986. Jerry undertook a variety of positions at multiple news, sports, and radio stations and networks in Arkansas, Texas, South Dakota, and Oklahoma. He was also an instructor at the University of Arkansas Fayetteville, South Dakota State University, the University of Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State University. He received his master's from South Dakota State while teaching there. While still working as an online instructor at Oklahoma State, Jerry moved to Conway and became an instructor in the College of Fine Arts and Communication at UCA in 2014. He taught courses in broadcast and audio journalism, writing for broadcast, and was an instrumental part of UCA's student-run News 6 TV station and News 6 Sports. On January 11, 2018, Jerry died at the age of 63. He is survived by his wife of 41 years, Donna Overton, 2 sons, 2 grandchildren, a brother and sister, and countless colleagues and friends.
I'm back now with Chandler Watkins, one of our December 2017 graduates, who was one of Jerry's prides and joy. Welcome, Chandler. You're usually on the other side.
Yeah, no, I'm the one usually interviewing people.
So first, tell us about, you've got a brand new job, which is a good thing to talk about.
Yes.
You're moving to Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Yes, to work at KPLC, which is an NBC affiliate. I'm very excited. I got a really good vibe from when I was being interviewed on the phone, and when I Skyped some of the other reporters to hear their experiences down there, and when I actually traveled down there. It's a family feel kind of town. It's a little bit bigger than Conway, and funny enough, because I covered football this past season, one of our biggest rivals, McNeese State, is located down there, and the guys are actually playing down there next season. So
good, but you'll have to be objective.
No, I don't know, because I was talking to the sports reporters when I went down there, and I was like, I will help you guys cover McNeese sports and stuff if you need me to, but when the Bears come to town, I am forever a Bear fan.
Off the clock. So Chandler, what did Jerry mean to you over the years? I mean, did he come in your freshman year?
I was a late journalism student. Okay. I originally came to UCA for nursing. Okay. And then within like 2 months, I realized that was not what I wanted to do. And the next semester I started taking just random classes just to get my general education courses out of the way. And I was in a Germany through film class, and I ran into an old friend from high school who was a journalism major, and he said, you should come down and see our student-run news station. And so I came over, and that's where I met Jerry. And like within the first 5 minutes of being in Stanley Russ, I fell in love, and I switched my major like the next day. Yeah.
So he'd been here a year.
I think so.
So he was off and running. Okay. So what about him? What did he mean to you? Let's just look back overall.
He was very much like a second father to me, and as in, not that my dad isn't in the picture. I love my dad and stuff, but sometimes like there were things that he like didn't understand about my degree that I was working towards and stuff, or like questions about just news questions and just some life questions that I just he wouldn't understand it because he's in the medical field. And so I would always come to Jerry, and Jerry would always be objective and tell me like how to do certain things and like how to just not only become a better journalist, but to become a better person as well.
It was a terrible loss for all of us. Talk about some of your experiences with him in class, or just some of the things that you remember.
I still remember the first time that I met him, and I was like, Professor Overton. He's like, ugh, call me Jerry. And so I thought that was
so
just
him.
the weirdest thing, because all my professors and stuff, like who
in nursing, obviously.
In nursing and stuff, they're just like, you will refer to me as like professor or doctor, and so I was like, okay. And then, but in a way that kind of spoke about the whole journalism department and stuff. Like we all know each other by first names, and we're just one big family. And him being the only full-time broadcast professor and stuff, not only myself, but other journalism students who were getting their major with an emphasis in broadcast, just we all got so close and stuff, especially because he ran the broadcast journalism production classes. He ran 2 of them, and then he helped run News 6, and he, like I said, he was just like a dad to all of us.
So what about some stories that you worked on for him, some field experiences, elections? I'm trying to remember what classes were where when we were out covering things. So
I helped produce a 2-hour election special where I thought I was going to pull all my hair out. I was so stressed out.
Now that was November of 2016.
Yes.
Okay.
And he really helped me to remain calm and stuff. And I usually had this problem that like I would try and take on too much and stuff, because I was like, I need to do this myself. I have a certain vision for this, and like I wouldn't let anybody else help me out. But he was like, Chandler, like the newsroom is like a team effort and stuff. Like the anchor can't be the reporter and the weather person and the producer and the news director all in one thing. It has to be a team effort. And so he helped me really kind of let go of that problem that I had. And he also helped me use my past experiences to help better the election special. Like, for example, I had the opportunity to intern up in Congressman Hill's office in Washington, D.C. And
the summer before?
Summer before.
Okay.
And so then I was asking him, I was like, should I have another reporter interview him and stuff? Because I feel like I can't come at this objectively. And he was just like, as long as both you and Congressman Hill and his people know that like you are going to remain unbiased and stuff throughout this and stuff. And he's like, you could be friends off the camera and stuff, but when the cameras turn on, like you have to become the news reporter I know you are. And so that really helped. And then helped with other interviews as well that we did for that election special.
So was that his idea, the election special? How did I can't remember how all this got started.
I think the prior election cycle.
We've always covered it, but I don't know.
Covered it.
I don't think we'd ever done a 2-hour one.
I don't know if we did. I'd have to like look back into the archives and stuff, but he really wanted us to get that experience because obviously we're gonna have to experience it in a real newsroom at some point. Even if like say you just cover sports and stuff, like you have to sometimes step in as well. And so he wanted all of us to experience something as realistic as possible and stuff, which is also helpful when we have a student-run news station like this and stuff, where we run 30-minute live newscasts every weekday and stuff. But he wanted something really special, so he was like, 2 hours it is, and so none of us really argued with it, so we just kind of ran with it.
So talk about some of the other stories that you covered for News 6 or that you were a part of.
I'm trying to think of several in particular. There have just been so many.
We'll throw out a few.
I know that one time I did a flu season one, and it ended up falling through and stuff, but because like I didn't get enough footage or something, or my interviews didn't really work out and stuff. But Jerry was always the type to, even if you kind of messed up on something, he would always try and look at the bright side, and he'd be like, okay, and stuff, like this is good, but this is how you fix it. And he, like I made so many mistakes, as so many journalism students do, but it never really felt like he would be like chastising me for it and stuff. It would always be constructive criticism, and for me, like, he always had that sense of humor to where he'd like make fun of you and stuff once he like felt comfortable enough to. And so it was always funny.
In a good way.
Yes, in a funny way. And I know some of the new students who would come in and stuff, and they'd like see some of the stuff he would say. They'd be like, "Is he always like this?" I'd be like, "Oh yeah," and stuff. But like I didn't realize that because it had been so long that like sometimes it would come off as mean or something if they didn't know him. But I was like, once you get to know him and stuff.
What are some of those? Do you remember some of the zingers that he?
I will never forget when I did get that internship up in Washington, D.C. and I had all these, I put it on Facebook and stuff, and I had all these like congratulatory messages and stuff, and I asked, and he waited to be the last person to comment and stuff, and he just put, "Wow, miracles do happen," and stuff, and that was just him, and it was so funny.
So what did his, one of the strengths of our program is the professional experience, and I know that when we were putting some things together last fall, we counted up and we had a combined like 225 years of professional journalism experience among us, and Jerry had the most, so because he was older than most of us. So what does that do for the students, the professional focus of what we do here?
I've always said that I've been so grateful that our program had a news station that we could run ourselves, and he kind of just let us carry it and stuff. He would sometimes just kind of stand back and let us run everything, and only when like we messed up or something did he or Tony or John step in. And I will forever be really grateful for that, because I have met some people who didn't get that experience, and it's crazy to think about that, because going into a newsroom and stuff, especially when like you're fresh out of college and stuff, and like for me, like I still don't really know what I'm doing and stuff, and but those people really don't know what they're doing. And he would always want us to be as professional as possible when we showed up. Had to have our hair done, our makeup done, or dressed nicely, and at least from the waist up and stuff if we were sitting at the news desk. But he wanted us to present ourselves like we were a real newscast, because we were. We broadcast through Conway, and people watched us, and he wanted us to expect more of ourselves. And that really helped, especially when I went into my internship, because
And you did another internship at Channel 7.
At Channel 7 in Little Rock, and I acted as professional as I could, and I learned a lot there, but I carried the things that I learned from News 6 over as well.
So you were well prepared to be there.
Yes.
Good.
As opposed to some other interns.
Yes, from other schools.
Yes.
Good. Well, it's hard to lose your mentor, and it's really hard to lose him so quickly. What will you carry? What will you carry of Jerry for forever?
His pride in his students. I still remember when he invited all of us graduates from last month or 2 months ago, December, to his house, and I was the first one there, and I was usually, whenever he held parties at his house, and so I'd be the first one there because I loved talking to him and his wife. And we were sitting there while his wife was finishing lunch and everything, and we were just talking about the future and everything, and I was like, I know I'm prepared now and stuff because of everything that you and the other professors have taught me and things that I've learned throughout my years at News 6 as well as the journalism department and Channel 6 Sports. And he was just sitting there listening, smiling, and he stopped me and he's like, "I hope you know how proud I am of you." And just hearing that, not only from him but from other people. Like, I spoke at his memorial service, and I had several Facebook messages because I had to leave immediately after from people I didn't know, but they said he talked the world of me. And
I know he did.
And you're gonna make me cry. But,
me too.
But just that I know he will be watching me flourish in the career that I love so much because of how much he taught me. And he always told me, he's like, if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life. And it hasn't felt like work when I've been here, and I know it won't feel like work when I go down to Lake Charles and when I moved from Lake Charles. And one thing that John Walls told me was, because I wanted to wait till I got the actual job offer and stuff to tell Jerry, so I never got to tell him. But,
Oh, we didn't know?
but I was...
Did he know he knew you had interviewed, though? Oh, he didn't know, okay.
And so then I was on the phone with John Walls, and I was telling him that I wish I had told Jerry about this. I wish I hadn't waited. He was like, Chandler, he knows. And
he does.
I know he does.
He does. Chandler, thanks for joining us on Spotlight, and we will take him with us forever.
Jerry Overton wasn't just a professor here at the University of Central Arkansas. He was a friend, a loving and caring family member, and a very hard-working man. Professor David Keith and Rob Mortz both shared what they will miss most about him.
I mean, Jerry was just a good person. He was a good guy to be around. He was entertaining, personable, and you know, he was a friend, and we're all going to miss him.
I enjoyed his stories about when he was a TV cameraman, when he worked for TV stations as an anchor, as a cameraman. He worked for a radio station in Dallas. He was an announcer.
If you were to ask any of the faculty here at UCA, they would tell you that Jerry Overton was nothing less than inspiring.
He was going for his doctorate late in life, and I had done my master's not too many years ago. So he was an inspiration in that he was taking the time to advance his degree at his age.
One thing that he did to inspire me is I watched him with students, and he was really excited to be around the students. And I could see how happy he was to be there, and it was like, you know, I'd been teaching a long time, and I guess I lost a little bit of that happiness, not all of it, but a little bit. But it was like, oh yeah, I can see where he's coming in, because he is just coming in some of the first time he's teaching, and it was like, I had that once, and I have it back now. After knowing him, it was like he inspired me to get my happy back, I guess.
Michael Haddigan and Tony Brooks, also professors here at UCA, shared their favorite memories they have with Jerry, something they will cherish forever.
More of a fragment of Jerry in his office. Every once in a while, when he got a break, he would sit down and kind of chew on a cigar and read Western novels.
I think my favorite memories of Jerry are the two of us in the back of the control room talking about our grandkids. He loved his family, and he had some terrific stories about Reagan and the other grandkids, and we used to share stories, and it was that's some of my favorite memories of Jerry.
I'm joined now by Donna Overton, Jerry's wife, and John Gale, who is the director of the School of Communication, who was involved in hiring and working with Jerry for this time. So thank you both for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Donna, I understand this is your debut.
Yes.
You spent a lot of years sort of supporting Jerry in the background.
I managed to stay off camera and off the air except for one other time in 41 years, wow. So that was pretty good.
We are lucky to have you here.
Thank you.
Just talk about, tell us how you met Jerry.
Oh, I'm not sure I want to put that on camera. We actually met in college my freshman year through mutual friends. His fraternity and the house that I lived in. We went to a dance on Friday night. There used to be a place in Fayetteville at the university called The Rink. And River City Street Band was playing, and he didn't have a date. So a friend asked me to go with him, and so he didn't actually ask me to go with him. So I went because a friend asked me to go, and we had a really good time because we weren't trying to impress each other. So he started asking me out again.
Oh,
so,
good.
Yeah. But we dated off and on for 4 years before we got married.
Now, you told me that there was a funny story about early in your career, early in your marriage, or relationship.
Yes. The only other time I've ever been on air, and this is horrible, we were going home one Saturday. We'd been married about 6 months, and we had not been home, and I was really sort of getting a little bit homesick. And so I was to meet him at the radio station. He was working at K-Hog, and he did the sign-on at K-Hog. So I met him, and we were going to leave as soon as he got off the air. So when I got there, he says, oh, would you run these cables over? They're doing a live, whatever they were doing, I forgot what it was, something live. Anyway, at JCPenney, and that was back when JCPenney was still in the square in Fayetteville, so that's a long time back. And so I run over there and I start to hand the cables to someone, and this guy comes running at me with a microphone. And I thought, I was going, no, you know. And he goes, let me ask this lady, what do you think about the plants? And I mean, I went blank. And I go, they're green. And then I just like handed him the cables and ran away. And so I got back to the studio and they're all laughing. You know, and Jerry goes, this stupid lady that they interviewed said the plants were green. And I go, that was me. And so anyway, that's my only other time. Maybe that's why he never let me be on air with him. So I really froze.
Well, you two had a great, it was obvious how much he loved you and vice versa, and you seemed to complement each other because you were, you know, John, wouldn't you say they were sort of they're different kinds of different personalities, but ultimately very, very, very good together?
Oh yeah, I would certainly agree with that, and you know, and Jerry, of course, always spoke very highly of you, and you'd see you two together, you'd get together with the faculty, and it was just really nice to have you with us, and part of that family that the journalism faculty came together, and it's not just the faculty, it's our children, it's our spouses. Yeah, so I agree.
Thank you. I would agree. We did have a really good relationship. Most people that knew us well, and of course most of the people listening to don't know my career and everything, but Jerry always really supported me in my career as well as me supporting him in his. He left Northwest Arkansas for my career.
Oh, I didn't put those two together. Which was HP?
No, I worked for IBM. And I
IBM.
took a move to Kansas City, and he left that was when he was doing the coaches shows and was doing sports, his dream job at 4029, and then we were moved to Dallas. And then when I was in Dallas later, not long before I retired in 2007, I got the opportunity to go international on a project, and he totally supported that. I mean, it was like, go for it, you know. And so it's really nice if you can have a partner in your life that, you know, supports you in your career and your endeavors as well as you're able to support them. But then I was really fortunate here in the last few years when I came back from that was when he went back to school and started teaching.
Now tell me about that. Because I knew Jerry 30 years ago, and when he applied for this job, I was like, I remember him, but I had no idea. Had he always wanted to go back to school?
Well, when we were in Fayetteville was the first time he taught. I believe the class he taught was intro writing. He was doing the news at that time. He wasn't in sports. And when we got married, Jerry had changed his major, so he had about 3 semesters to go back to school. So we went back to Fayetteville after we were married, after I graduated, and he finished a year, but then he was hired by KFSM in Fort Smith. Okay. And so we moved there, and he promised his mother he would finish. And then a long journey of things. He went to Channel 4, and we went to Abilene, Texas for his job. And we came back to Arkansas, and then he was hired to go help start up 4029. And when we got back to Fayetteville, then he went back and he took night classes. Okay. And he finished his degree. That's why he finished so much later. Yeah. But he taught after he finished beginning news writing. And so I think that sort of sparked doing that. But then when he moved to sports, he traveled so much with the teams and stuff. It was really hard for him to commit to teach because you have to be there to teach. So, but he always remembered that and always said he would like to do it again. So there came a point in our life when our kids were grown and I had left home. And when I came back from my international assignment, I said, okay, you got 1 year to make up your mind. You got to find a college, you got to get in it, and you got to start because we're getting to the stage in our life. It's not going to happen unless you got to do it now. So that's when he quit his job full time, went to South Dakota State.
You stayed home in Dallas?
I stayed in Dallas for 2 years, and he got his degree in journalism there.
Master's degree.
His master's degree, yes. His master's in journalism. And then he met 2 ladies that were really inspirational to him in the comm department there, and because he taught speech there. And they introduced him to people at the University of Oklahoma. and he really wanted to go to Colorado State.
To do his PhD.
To do his PhD, and I go, no way, I am moving that far, and we're not living that far apart anymore. But he was accepted at OU and Texas Tech.
Oh, okay.
And then he ended up going to OU because they gave him a teaching assignment and a stipend. But it was a 4-year program, not a 3-year program. So he finished his 4 years, and then we're in the final processes of working on that PhD. So,
now, what was his original major?
Journalism.
Oh, okay.
Originally.
Originally.
It was,
Wasn't it agri?
It was ag business or ag something, yeah. He didn't do very well that year. So when he came back to school, he lost a lot of hours, and when he went into journalism. So so pretty much it was 4 new years all over again. Yeah.
Now, John, what did you? I mean, when we were going through to hire this position, we saw Jerry's resume, and I think you said, wow.
Well, right, I did say wow, because it's really, really tough to find this combination of an advanced degree and the teaching experience and the professional experience working, whether it's in a newspaper or radio station or in television. And Jerry had all of that. And the way that we work and apply and get our students to apply what they do, like these students out here working today on the show, Jerry was just really a great combination of the academic and the professional experience that he'd had. And when candidates come in, a lot of job candidates go, oh, I hope I get the job. Oh, I hope I get the job. On our end, often we're going, oh, we hope we can get this person. We hope we can bring them in. And Jerry was one of those. I hope we can get him. Hope he says yes to us. And he did, and we're fortunate in that. So, I like that very well. And he came in and just automatically knew, okay, here's the academic part that the students need. Here's the academic part that my colleagues need, but then here's the applied portion that our students need. And we're applying this in such a way that when they leave here, students could walk out of this newsroom, out of this studio, and they could walk into virtually any television studio, into any newsroom in the country, and have an idea of what's going on. They may not know the specific equipment, they may not know the specific software packages, but very quickly they're going to be up to speed much more quickly than most of the journalism programs I know of around the country. And so, it was all of that. It was that ability to have a person who could help in that academic professional transition. And plus the connections. I mean, Jerry, as many of our faculty members, knows everyone around. So, yeah.
He was just such a great colleague. I mean, we could count on him. He was always available to help out, to pitch in. I mean, we're finding now, since he's been gone, I think a lot of the other things that we didn't realize he was doing on, at the beginning. But we were so happy and lucky to have him. He was happy here too, wasn't he?
Yes, we were both very happy here. Our goal when he finished was to be no farther away than what we were in Dallas. Our parents are from Arkansas, and so we were wanting to get closer to our parents. And then we moved here. It just so happens our other son moved to Texas, so now both of our children are in Texas. I mean, our parents are here, but we really had not even thought about Conway.
Well, you probably hadn't been to Conway much, had you?
It had been years since we've been to Conway. My parents live in Hot Springs, so we never really came this far north in the state. If we did, we were in Northwest Arkansas because we had friends and families still there from Northwest Arkansas. But when the summer that Jerry applied for the job, at the end of the semester, we decided to take a little camping trip and decided to go back to the Buffalo River because we had gone to the Buffalo River a lot when we lived in Northwest Arkansas. So we had spent our time there, and a raccoon kept our camping trip short, this very aggressive raccoon. And so we decided to take a little trip around the northern part of the state, and we came back through Conway. And we drove through UCA, and the last time we had been to UCA was when his sister had graduated.
Wow.
So that was like in 77, 78. and it had really changed. And we commented, what a beautiful campus this was. It had really changed. And so we sort of drove around town a little bit, and we got back home, and it was not a month from then, he says, Donna, they have a journalism department at UCA, and there's a job opening. And I go, really? And so
After
he goes,
you had made this trip to
yes,
wow.
it was like it was meant to be. So we sort of had a pre-look of Conway and what it was like. And so then he applied, and the interview process started, and by the end of July, we were here. So, and it was a great move. It was a really great move for us, yeah.
So, any other big funny stories or anything you want to tell on him now that?
No, not that I can share here. We had some good stories.
We did have some good. I do remember that the journalism faculty likes to socialize occasionally, and we had our last time on, I think, December the 6th, and we went to a local Mexican restaurant, and I got there, and Jerry had the biggest margarita I've ever seen, and he enjoyed every drop of it. We had the thing that was perfect was our faculty likes each other, and
yes.
we feel like we're a family, and it was just, and this is a terrible hole for us. So,
and that was one thing he really liked working here, was that the faculty and everyone got along so well together, and it was fun working here.
Yeah.
That was always really important to Jerry, not only to do the news and broadcasting, but he felt like your job needs to be fun too. You need to like what you do.
Oh, yeah.
And he did love being in journalism, and he loved sports. And oh my gosh, we went to all the ball games. Not this year because we had a lot of sickness in our extended family, but yeah, we would go to the girls and the men's basketball game, and he would watch the kids do their news, their telecasts, I guess, and their reporting. And then, he would give them some pointers at the end, and then we would go home, and I would think, oh, this is so much nicer than when he did this, because I would be waiting for an hour and a half at the door, waiting.
You could go home.
Yeah, because I could go home. It was a lot different. Many hours spent outside the gate, on the outside, while he was on the inside waiting to go home after games and traveling and stuff. So, but we enjoyed it. We had fun. I went with him a lot, and I think that made the job and the career better, because we tried hard to participate in the things that we could together. Because most people just think, you're on the air at 6 or 10 or your little short board shift or whatever, but there's hours of preparation before and after, and it's not just a job, it's pretty much a lifestyle. Those that have been in it understand what I'm talking about. Your family either becomes separated from it, or they engage it with you. And we always tried to take the kids with us when he was in Northwest Arkansas, and make it a family thing if it was weekend events and things. So
that's great.
Jerry Overton was very important to UCA in the journalism department, leaving his mark on those he taught and worked with. Here's a look at what a few of the students had to say. Zachary Stolzer, a senior at UCA, worked with Jerry for years and had this to say about some of his favorite memories working with Jerry.
And I was able to announce basketball games with him over the course of these last year and a half or so. I mean, every game that I'd get to color commentate with him when he'd be a play-by-play, he was so professional, and but at the same time, like anytime we'd have a commercial break and we'd have a little bit of time, he'd be goofing around.
Jerry was certainly loved and will be missed by his students. Micah McKinney, a broadcast major, recalls one of her favorite memories of Jerry.
Like, Micah, and I was like, what's up, Jerry? And he was like, you look really orange. And it just got really awkward, but it ended up being the camera, and he called me a Oompa Loompa. But it turned out everything was fine, it's just the camera was messed up. He told me that I needed to go get foundation matched. But it turned out it was the camera, so everything was good. But that's my favorite memory of Jerry.
Dylan Brown, another journalism major and senior at UCA, describes what he will miss most.
He liked to have a good time, but he was also really serious, like kind of the old classic firm but fair. Like, I liked his honesty, because if you're coming into broadcasting, when you graduate, go get a job, they're not going to hold your hand or sugarcoat it. Like,
Joseph Darby, senior and director for UCA News 6, spoke about Jerry's presence while in the studio.
he brought a kind of energy to the studio that it's hard to describe. It's one of those, he was that constant presence that you always knew if you needed any help that he would know how to help you with anything.
Jerry inspired students to join the journalism department.
He helped convince me to switch over into journalism, and he kind of helped me get over that initial kind of uncertainty I had. And he made me realize that I knew this is where to be.
I'm joined now by John Walls, who is my former student and now my colleague as the director of Channel 6. John, welcome to this side of the camera.
This is a little bit different, me on this side of the camera.
And you would do it probably only for Jerry.
Yeah, he's somewhere right now. I know Jerry's like, this is payback for the Eagles winning the Super Bowl because of how we go back and forth to each other. So this is definitely his little karma thing for me.
So you worked with him closely,
yes,
from the time he got here.
He got here in 2014, and when he came in, I remember John Gale was just on here talking about looking at his resume, and the previous director, Chris Churchill, had shown us like, this is the guy they're hiring. And I started seeing Razorback and Dallas covering this Old Southwest Conference. I was like, really? This is kind of, because I'm more sports oriented. And then when Jerry came in, he had so many ideas. He asked, the first semester he asked questions. Why are we doing this? What's the purpose of this? What can we do better? And after that first semester, from the fall of 2014 to where we were in the fall of 2017, were two drastically different semesters.
I agree.
What we were doing, what we were focusing on, trying to get the students involved in, it had changed. And it was a lot more exciting because there was somebody that kind of, for me personally, shared my vision, shared the excitement of what can do, and just trying to make UCA known, especially for the journalism department, sports, news, the whole ordeal.
Tell me about him personally. I know you spent a lot of time in the studio while everybody, so talk about some of those experiences.
For me, having grown up with a lot of older gentlemen, Jerry had he would tell all the old stories of the old Southwest Conference, and he always had that belly laugh when something would go wrong. But it was always fun to hear because I was always a sucker for hearing how it was in the old days. And it'd be funny because every conversation we'd have, it was always something correlated to how Nolan Richardson was to him, how Ken Hatfield was to him when he was working, and then just different things he had done in Dallas. And then he'd always have some dirty comment or he's like, no one was supposed to know this was happening. And it was just funny to hear how things had changed from the 70s and 80s to how they are now. But listening to him talk, every conversation, I think the last meeting I had with him, you stepped in on, and there were 2 or 3. Well, in the old Southwest Conference days, it's like, I wasn't alive, but cool.
and you appreciated that.
Oh yeah, because you could see where, for me, you could see how things had changed. Because a lot of what he was doing with the old Southwest Conference was in the early 80s, where I wasn't even born yet. And so how things had changed when he would go to the Orange Bowl, and he would have to check the cabling or the telephone lines for them to do the radio broadcast. I'm like, you just go now like 2 hours before, plug up an Ethernet cable and hit play, and it works. But that was totally different back then. And so listening to how things were then, and he would see how I would do things now, he was like, man, that's so much easier than what it used to be like. So there was kind of that appreciation
and he
for each
learned
other.
from you too. I mean, it was a mutual.
Because there was a lot of, Jerry had done everything. He had filmed on the sidelines at football games. He had done radio, he had done television news, and there were things even in the studio that he came in and he's like, I want this, I want that. And there were some things we physically could not do, some things financially we could not do. But the one thing I liked about Jerry kind of met my philosophy of, you don't cry over what you don't have, you make do with what you do have. So we only got these new cameras, I think it was in January, about this time last year, where we were still in standard definition 16 years after they had done everything. So we were pushing the limits of the technology. So, okay, we can't worry about that. What can we do with the students? How can we make the packages better, the sound better, the presentation better? It's like, well, that's something we can control. And then once we got the new cameras, let's take it one step further. Let's see where we can push this and make us more visible in the state of Arkansas.
Give me some adjectives to describe him. Wise.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he had. Thanks for putting me on the spot, Donna.
I'll help you.
I mean, he
easygoing to a point.
That's an understatement.
Yeah.
I mean, we would joke that he was the good cop and I was the bad cop because it's like he wanted to make sure everybody was learning as much as possible, but then he knew when to you had messed up, but he also knew when to praise you. And he was very good at that. Him so much more than me, because I'm just like, I just don't like it. But with Jerry, he always praised. He always wanted to make sure the students knew. I mean, you were talking earlier with John and Donna about how he loved what he was doing here. He hung his hat on the success stories of these students. And I can give countless success stories of some of the students where even to this day, they're more in contact with me on the sports side. And it's always, make sure Jerry knows this, or tell us about what, here's a picture, be sure to show it to Jerry. One of the best ones he loved was Taryn Meyer, the soccer player, where Taryn, he would be the first one to admit he was here to play soccer. But then the last year when he got done, he was like, I'm done my eligibility. I want to get as involved in this as possible. Where Taryn was working with me, but he was volunteering with the news. He would do the newscast. And the first person, as soon as Taryn got out of here, would go to Jerry or go to Tony Brooks. He'd say, what do I need to work on? What do I need to get better at? Taryn eventually, he was like, I have a connection. I'm from Utah. And I have a connection with real Salt Lake. I don't understand how Major League Soccer works. But I have a connection where when I leave UCA, I have a job. And I need to get as much experience in 8 months as possible. Taryn didn't care about baseball, but he announced baseball. Taryn didn't care about basketball. Or he cared about basketball, he didn't know about basketball. So Jerry sat with him and said, this is good, this is bad. Donna Overton was talking about waiting on the students to critique. Taryn was one of those students where he was like, I want to know what I'm doing wrong and how to get better as soon as possible. So when Taryn left here in, I think, the summer 2016, he had a job, and he was sending me pictures of doing podcasts with, I guess, the really good people in Major League Soccer. I don't follow soccer, but he was like, this is what I'm doing, and just, he was very proud. And I would show Jerry the screenshots, and he's like, that's one of our success stories. That's what we have accomplished by getting these kids the opportunities here, but getting them the jobs.
How would you describe him?
Man, you're just giving me all sorts of things on the spot. He had done everything, and he wanted everyone to have the same experiences that he did. He fell in love with being a journalist. He fell in love with being a radio announcer, anchor, sports reporter. He wanted people to have that same feeling that he did, and that's where I think it kind of made people excited.
It rubbed off on the students.
Yeah, and it's like he would tell about these stories like, you can do this. You don't have to be from the University of Arkansas. You don't have to go to the USC School of Journalism. You can be from UCA, and you can go places. And that's the one thing that I think he really got into their head. He's like, it just doesn't matter. Like, he was very energetic and showed you could do whatever you wanted to do, as long as you put forth the work.
And he made you want to do it.
Yes.
So, yes.
I mean, he was very inspirational. I guess there's your word, inspirational for you.